Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Squish like sardines, they
I want to welcome everybody to our special meeting this evening. We do have a bit of a bare bones staff. We have no clerk this evening, so we will do the clerk duties ourselves this evening. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if I could just ask that we go around the table, starting with Councilman Donovan, if you could just give your name and title of the district that you represent for the record.
Councilman Gary Donovan's councilman at large present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, 1st District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Liz Johnston, 3rd District, present.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District, present.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Peter Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
And Council at Large Ron Quagliani present. Councilwoman Finelli and Councilman Cohen are absent. Is the mayor with us this evening? I believe the mayor was going to call in, so we'll check on her in a little while. So we have a quorum. The reading of the special meeting in accordance with Rule 11 of the rules governing the actions of the City Council. Chairman Ron Quagliani has called the special meeting of the West Haven City Council to be held at 6 p.m. on Monday, November the 15th, 2021 in the Harriet North Courtroom, 2nd floor, West Haven City Hall. The purpose of this special meeting is as follows. Review, discussion, and action, if necessary, on the City of West Haven Commercial Economic Incentive Program. We do have a public comment portion. Just so everybody is aware, when this appears on a regular City Council agenda, there will be a public hearing prior to that. But we do have an opportunity for public comment as well this evening. So I'll open it up for public comment. The rules apply the same as they do at a regular council meeting. One-time speaking rule, name and address for the record. Be courteous to the council. We'll be happy to hear your comments or concerns. That being said, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the City Council?
Yes.
Yes, you come up right to the podium. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Miss Howard, 284 West Spring Street, West Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
Okay, I can go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. The reason why I'm here is I have a issue with safety, the welfare and safety of my child, on West Spring Street. There's no sidewalk.
Ms. Howard, I'm sorry, but so this is a special meeting this evening specific to the Economic Incentive Plan.
Oh, okay.
So here's what I could do. I mean, either you definitely could contact your council person now or leave the information for you. West Spring Street is, I'm not sure, which, that's yours?
Split it.
Mine and Trinae.
All right, so you could either, speak with them, or you could, and leave the information with them. What number, West Spring Street, 284?
284.
I think that's you, Mitch. I
Yeah,
think we split, yeah, for
you're
them.
by the VA, right?
Yes, for past the VA.
So if you want to get her information now offline, so Councilman Galagnano will take care of you, okay?
Okay.
You could go right up, Mitch, if you
Okay.
wanted to go through that now, that's fine. Okay, the mayor has joined us. He's watching over my shoulder. Okay, again, specifically, the public comment is for the Economic Incentive Plan. Is there anyone else from the public? Pat?
Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Pat Bollettieri, 215 West Walk. Thank you to reporters Brian Zahn and Andrew Brown for exposing the corruption and waste in our city. They should get Pulitzer Prizes. According to the data provided by the state of Connecticut, West Haven received $18 million in direct COVID relief money under the American Rescue Plan Act and another 11 million of county allocation for a total of 29 million to be doled out at the rate of 14.5 million over the next 2 years. And now the very first project that comes before the city council to spend this money is a corporate welfare project. Corporate welfare doesn't work, and even if it did, it's hardly a category that I would put at the top of our priority list when so many people are hurting. The plan that you're asked to approve tonight is to pay for up to 10 months of commercial lease payments for certain companies. Attorney Tiernan is quoted in the New Haven Register. The city is going to make far more back in this little investment. Well, that's an unsubstantiated statement. That's the kind of unsubstantiated pronouncement that brought us to Haven. In his memo to City Council, Attorney Tiernan said the funds would be available on a first-come, first-served basis. And then he's quoted in the New Haven Register, "We have people in the commercial sphere who will ink deals that are already in place if we can get this passed." Well, this sounds like a done deal. Attorney Tiernan is doing everything. The man is wearing 10 hats. He's doing economic development, he's doing purchasing, he's doing pension studies, he's doing personnel, in addition to his real job of defending the city and giving advice. It's not his fault, he's put in that position. Furthermore, you don't need to tie up an expensive attorney to respond to FOIA requests. It's a job that can be done by a trained clerk with attorney oversight. Where is everybody? I see that we're looking to hire a consultant to help us manage this money, and maybe we do need a consultant, because obviously there isn't enough or the right manpower at City Hall to even run the city. There will be projects to manage, so you'll have to hire project managers, unless you want Attorney Tiernan to do that too. I'm retired, I have plenty of time. I can manage projects. If you need an extra hand, I'm available as a volunteer. This situation tells me something, and that is that our federal government is throwing too much money at us too fast. There isn't enough time or manpower to absorb the money or to plan to use the money wisely. And everybody has his hand out, and we're making frivolous and self-serving decisions. Although the city has wide latitude to allocate the ARPA funds, I suggest that you look for ways to benefit the community at large first, before considering corporate welfare. Treasury regulations give many specific examples of allowable expenditures, such as job training to accelerate hiring of unemployed workers, financial assistance to households, IT upgrades, such as the enhancement of public health databases, and even the remediation of lead paint, since so many children spent so much extra time at home this year. I urge you to reject this request, or at least to put it lower on the priority list.
Thank you, Ms. Bollettieri, for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the city council? For a second time, anyone from the public would like to address the city council? For a third time, anyone from the public? Sir?
Yep. Jay Borelli, 84 Ranchwood Drive, West Haven, Connecticut. I have a lot of thought about this, but before I go any further, I'd really like to get some more information from Attorney Tiernan about the article that was in the paper. Because until we really get some more communication on it, we're really not going to be able to make an educated comment on some things. I agree with the previous speaker on a lot of the information, and the city has spent a lot of money, expended it, expensed it, but what I want to make sure that some of this money goes to something that we're going to invest in our people, our future, and going forward. So before I can make a comment, I would really like to have Mr. Tiernan talk a little bit, because he alludes to, the Sawmill Road project from 2002 in that article, and the proposal you have really doesn't equate to that. I mean, we're talking like 6 people employed in a business for 5 years versus, that's been in place for like 18, 19 years now. And all those businesses have far more employees. And I'm sure those leases aren't 5-year leases. In fact, they're probably more like 15, 20, or longer. So, 5-year lease, what kind of return are you getting on that? And if the city gets involved in that. And some of the things we know, it's about the brewery. I think it's a great idea to get a business like that here. But to give them a 5-year lease really isn't really feasible to get any kind of return. So I'd like to hear more before some comments are made. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Borelli, Councilor Tiernan will present this evening, and then again, you'll have an opportunity at a later meeting for public hearing to speak again.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the city council for a second time? Anyone else from the public like to address the city council for a third time? Anyone else from the public like to address the city council? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Next up on the agenda is a presentation of the Commercial Economic Incentive Program, and I'll turn the meeting over to the redevelopment chair, Councilwoman O'Connor.
Good evening. The time is 6:11. The special meeting for the redevelopment committee is starting. Present from the committee is Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman Mitch, Councilwoman Johnston, and Councilman Bruno, and myself acting as chair. Before I open it up to questions, Lee, I need you up here because the biggest question that we have right now is, what is your ask of the council? What is it that you actually want us to do with this proposal? I don't quite understand it.
Okay. So pursuant to your charter, with respect, it is not an ask by Lee Tiernan. This was a proposal from the mayor. So this is an ask by the mayor. I am helping facilitate the request. So the ask is that we make a program available. It can be started with funds in the property asset account. It doesn't have to be started with ARPA funds. You can look to ARPA funds if you find the program successful and you think that's a good way for businesses to come out of the COVID problem that affected businesses. There are many different ways that businesses could be helped. However, there has been a long cry in this community that there isn't enough development. Why don't we get development? Why doesn't development happen? And if you look at the largest development that occurred in the city in a long time, it would be on Sawmill Road, the Walmart, the McDonald's, the Firestone, the Aldi, the hotel, and the restaurant. If you look at the history of that development, that's $8 million in bonding money. We are still paying those bonds for a little while longer, 20-year bonds. That investment did get you what you had. That investment was already producing tax revenue on that real estate before you had the development. It was supposed to generate tons of development around it. Within 2 years, Staples closed. There wasn't a lot of improvement in development around it. So that was one way to get development. You did get that development, though, with the $8 million. You got a Walmart. You got an Aldi. You got a McDonald's. You changed that site, and you got development near the highway. So the question is, what, if people want development in this community, what do you do? Because we haven't done much. We haven't budgeted much. We do a lot with anything we can do that has no monetary cost. The Haven development has, the state said that they could put $3 million towards traffic improvements along Elm Street. They were allowed to put $2 million towards clearing for the 1.5 acre public linear park. But the city, other than the tax abatement, the city hasn't put any money in that development. So the question is, are there ways that the city could, with an investment, bring additional development that otherwise wouldn't come? And that's what brings us here. So this is a modest program where developers and businesses have approached the city and said that if we can trim the gap, we would be able to spur development projects that otherwise wouldn't happen in the city. And what we're talking about is significant development projects. We're talking about 5-year leases that have a value of at least $1 million, and 10-year lease programs that would have a value of at least $2 million. The employment numbers, you can raise those, you can lower those, any way you wish. But it's clear that these programs would produce development right away that you otherwise wouldn't have. The only way to prove that you otherwise wouldn't have it is to watch the development walk away. So the program proposed is that for a private commercial developer, which would mean the brewery, by definition, would not be eligible for this program. This program is not designed for the brewery proposal. The brewery proposal is on city land.
Can you give me a second?
Yep.
Do you know what?
I think she has to mute herself.
Yeah, all right.
Can she mute? Can you mute the mayor?
She would have to be from person.
Mayor?
Should we tell her?
We can hear background noise. Can you mute yourself till you're going to talk, please?
Say it louder.
We can hear a lot of background noise, Mayor. Can you mute yourself until you have to speak? Awesome. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. So, the idea is that, either it.
Yeah, can you step back a little? No, I meant in your speech. Why does not the brewery qualify for this money?
Because
Or the hotel?
it's a private commercial development incentive. You'd really be incentivizing the city. So you'd be paying the city back for its own money, and then you'd be putting a lien to recoup the funds if they didn't achieve the goal of either the 5 or the 10 years. You'd be putting a lien on city property. It makes absolutely no sense. It's by design. This is supposed to spur private development. Only private developers would pay property tax. So with the brewery proposal, you couldn't even measure this by improvement or increased property tax revenue. These deals you'll get with any significant commercial development, and again, with $1 million 5-year or $2 million 10-year, you're going to get significant personal property tax generation. You're going to get increased value on the real estate. You're going to get real estate tax generation. Again, even if you measure it, if you look at Sawmill Hill, what you can say about it is you invested money and you have something you can look at. It didn't go anywhere near what all the studies said it would do, but you invested $8 million, and that's what you have. I don't think anybody's going to let you bond and invest $8 million. The mayor is not proposing that any of this be bonded or we borrow on the future. The idea is that we have money available, and then if developers have a significant development deal that they need some gap funding in order to make the deal successful, that you'd use this and you make it successful. But the alternative is, if you want to risk that you don't have, you don't need to do this and you still get development, I personally have not seen evidence of that. So I have heard people clamor development. It has never stopped. The cry of we need more development, we need more development, I've never heard it stop. So this is an opportunity to try to spur some of that development. And the other alternative is I don't know what. We don't have to do anything, I suppose. You could focus money on other projects. You will have ARPA money to do that. You could focus money on smaller business projects, smaller business loan programs, smaller business grant programs. That's perfectly appropriate. There's nothing about this program that would bar you or prohibit you from developing other type programs. But again, this came from businesses in your community that are trying to put together deals and asked if they could have some assistance.
Okay,
And so this is what was proposed.
I'm going to ask one question first and then open it up to everyone else, because I'm sure we all have tons of questions. Is there any other cities using their monies in this manner?
There's no, you're not going to find a program identical to this. There are other cities doing a variety of programs, some on a smaller scale with caps of 10,000 annual payments. But if you look at what the National League of Cities has suggested in terms of promotion of development within municipalities, the National League of Cities has promoted one area, which is public and private partnerships. And public and private partnerships are done all the time. Maybe they're not done this way, but public and private partnerships are done all the time in other ways in order for communities to spur development that otherwise wouldn't take place. And again, I mean, you could test your theory if you want, but then if the development goes away, I don't know what the alternative is. This did not come without a nudge from businesses that are in the community that said, could you do this? This would be helpful. This would make the difference. So I was asked to put something together, and this is what I came up with.
All right. I know everyone has questions. I'm going to start with Councilwoman Hosky, and then we'll go around from there.
Thanks. Hi, Lee.
Hello.
So I have a couple of questions. So one of the questions is, so the plan, there isn't really a complex plan, like there's not something written out. It's still in the development process.
The RFP for the vendor went to the New Haven Register
The RFP,
to have a vendor.
is that, so you have a vendor?
No, to get a vendor, we're doing an RFP to recruit
Okay.
a vendor for the program. That will go to the New Haven Register. It went today.
So the answer to my question is no, we don't have a.
Well, no, you said
comprehensive-
development. I want to be honest about it. It's not, we're not at zero. We're moving forward with as many parts as we can.
Oh, okay. So there's not a plan actually in place, it's under development. There's different parts, but the final plan on which somebody would say, oh, let me see if I meet the criteria, it's not all.
Yes, that would be posted on the website, be published in the newspaper, and be available when people have the public hearing. They would have the actual plan.
Is it me? I am so confused. So we're doing an RFP to hire a vendor to create this plan, and I'm sorry if I'm not following you.
All right.
Because,
So the plan is, it would be a 5-year lease, 10-year lease. The 5-year lease would have to have a value of at least $1 million. The 10-year lease would have to have a value of at least $2 million. It would have to generate at least 6 employees on the 5-year lease, 12 employees on the 10-year lease. You would have to complete your lease terms. There'd be a lien on the real estate. If you didn't complete your lease terms, we would take all the money back. In order to manage that program, we propose a private vendor, keep track of, to make sure that the lessor is meeting all its terms, and the lessor and the lessee would both have skin in the game, because you'd have a lien on the lessor's property, right? I mean, the lessee's property, so that they would have to make sure that the lessor completes their program. Do I have the actual documentation in the application? No, because
okay.
that's what this is for.
Oh, good,
You're not
'cause I
going to give me
got
the next step to do it.
Because I have, so hypothetically, I'm not saying I'm for this or against this, because I have concerns. I have concerns that we have developers in this city that we've given tax abatements to upwards of tons and tons of money, lots of money. So those are the same people that could possibly take advantage of this program, essentially, spike up their, just hypothetically, you know, I'm always gonna play the other side of it, can actually drive up the cost of their rent in hopes that the person renting from them can get that funds and we will help them. So I have some concerns on how do we stop that type of abuse. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of, but I'm just saying, hindsight is 20/20. We've learned a lot. So I will always now come from a place of thinking people will try to take advantage. So is there going to be like a going rate? So say Councilwoman Hamilton is gonna go and rent a property, that we're gonna say, that property's really not worth that much. So we'll give you this much towards it. Like, he can charge you whatever he wants to charge you, but Councilwoman Hamilton, if you choose to do that, based on our rate, we only think it's $35 a square foot, and we're sorry, Councilman Massaro wants to charge you $59, but we're only gonna give you $35.
I mean, the council has input here, you can design
Okay,
the
so who's
program
taking
any way
that
you
down as a
want.
note? Because I think we should follow up on that.
Andrew's taking it down.
Oh,
as a-
great, because he doesn't seem to be. My other concern is that if you're getting tax abatements from the city, should that developer really be looking for the city to help them fill spots? And I understand that maybe the person who wants to move there might need the help, but if you're already getting incentives from the city, shouldn't you yourself as the developer or the landlord look to be trying to create those relationships? So if we say, okay, well, we'll help them if you give them a 10% discount on the rent. I mean, I don't know, it's just, these are all the things that I have going on in my head, because I'm already thinking, we've given you, some of these developers, we could be giving you a lot of abatements in the hundreds of thousands of dollars over, I don't know, some of our developers, what do they get, like 7 years of abatements? I don't know. A lot of that happened before my time. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying these are just concerns that I have as a resident and a city council person that concerns me. I just look at it as double dipping. Yes, that's what I think it is. I think it could quite, double dipping. So that's another thought. I have more. So my other thought is that if we pay them yearly this rent, and then they're gone after 2 years, we can lien all of this stuff. I think it should be like, I think it should be on, let's say, the 5th year, month 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, we'll pay. Like, you gotta be there 5 years. You're not there 5 years, we're not at the 5th year. And I don't know if that's reasonable. To me, it seems reasonable, but paying up front, I just don't think it's.
As long as that works and spurs development, yes. But if it doesn't spur development, then it doesn't work.
Well, don't you think when we think about what doesn't spur development, I would think that it's been years since we've had a true economic development person, and the person we thought was doing the role denied having the role, even much as we thought he had the role. And now we don't have a person. So as much as we want to spark economic development, I think it is reasonable for us to take some of that responsibility on our shoulders, because that position is kind of open. And we need to spark a fire under, if I'm talking and you want to cut me off, you let me know. I think that we need to spark a fire under somebody's and get that position filled. Because Lee, you're fabulous, and you, as was said in the audience by Pat, you wear many, many hats, and your work is appreciated, but nobody can do all of that and expect to be able to deliver. Like, we need, I don't know if the consultant or whomever that person was supposed to be, I think it was in July, we approved it. Has that position been filled? or
You
the-
approved $50,000 for development, and that position will be filled next month with a consultant.
Excellent. So then my answer is, okay,
And-
so one more?
Yeah, I was going to say one last question, then I want
I know.
other people
I-
to speak.
a thing. So the Sawmill Road bonding, when we did all of that, when we did the Walmart and the Firestone, did they get tax abatements too?
I'm not aware that they got tax abatements now.
So we did, okay, because I was just curious that, did we put out all that money and give them tax abatements? Because I just don't know if that's sound business. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't around 20 years ago, but I'm just curious, that's all.
The state created tax abatements. They're in state law. They're not, it's not something that the city of West Haven created. The concept, and there's other types of ways to do it. You could do it, out west they do it with these things called TIFs, which they kind of freeze the taxes. The idea is, if I'm going to invest $1 million into a business, you are not incentivizing me, you are de-incentivizing me if my taxes are going to jump because I just, on my own, with my own money, increase the value of my property. So the abatements have a duration, and then they fall off, and then you pay just like anybody else. That's the concept of the abatements. You actually don't have a lot of improved tax abatements in this city. I'm only aware of 3.
Right, and and this is it, I promise. I'm just saying that I just struggle with that ability that the landlord could possibly be getting abatements from us, and then we're going to then help their tenants pay them when we're not really. I just think that there should be more of a partnership. If you want that person, well, you work with me, or that if we're gonna do this, we need to be sure that we're getting the going rate and it's not a hiked rate. Renters, you can just skyrocket it, like, $47 a square foot when it could be 26. That's all. I'm done, I promise.
Councilman Conlon and then Councilman Bruno.
Lee, what's the total dollar amount that's envisioned for this program?
I estimated that based on the interest I've seen so far, that you could expect between $750,000 and $900,000. Now, if it goes off great guns, then there might be more interest and there might be more demand. But you're talking about that investment, on the 10-year leases, I'm talking about an investment carries you 10 years or an investment that carries you 5 years. So I'm not talking about an investment necessarily of $750,000 to $900,000 every year. I'm talking about a one-time investment. The only way that would change is if the program was successful and the council wanted to expand it or include more parts or venues or more people in it.
So would we put a cap on it?
You could. I wasn't instructed to put a cap because if you're trying to spur development, you're trying to spur development as big and as large and as wide as you want. But if you thought the program could be successful with a cap, there's no reason why you wouldn't put a cap in if you wanted to. If the cap made people feel more comfortable, that would, in order to do something, that might work. But again, you'd have to measure that against, once you put the cap in, is it creating development opportunities?
Okay, well, these factors are still open-ended then as we look at how we structure the thing, is that correct?
Yes. I think it's fair to say that, without getting into the details, I met with the council once on this subject, and now we're coming back, because that was an executive session, so now we're coming back and giving this a more public airing. But I think with your comments, I'm taking notes, I would try to put together either no plan, like you don't have an interest in anything like this, or a plan that has differences. I tried to facilitate the mayor's vision based on input from the business community, but the council gets to decide things. So you need to be able to chew on it, you have ideas. I think Councilman Hosky has given some of her views. I mean, I think that's what this is all about. I think it's a positive process. That's the only way you guys feel like you're a part of the process and a part of how you get these programs in place or not. So I think this is not only a necessary element, I think it's a positive element. And just because somebody's critical about some part, I mean, I don't take personal offense on that or whatever. I think we can all learn from things. Everybody has good ideas. You people represent your community. So this should be something that the community, either wants to be put in place or doesn't. And the only way I can get an ear to the community to help the mayor input the right plan is from you guys. I can't just run around and, do surveys. So I think this is a positive part, and, any ideas on the table. I mean, there's no reason why it can't be. And so if councilmen have concerns, or you had in public comment concerns about whether or not, there's truly a need for this, is it really going to the right people? Those are all comments that are valid, and, this is the time to air them so that we make them part of the process.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome. Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Lee, thank you for coming before us. Lee, who is our economic developer at this time?
What we do is we utilize different people from the mayor's office. So I would say that Mr. Esposito is part of that. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm usually part of that. But in addition to that, as you saw with your recent proposal for the hydroponics, I was able to bring in a young Cornell grad who was able to help on that project. He's also familiarizing himself with the biodigester process, which is a process by which, I don't want to get off topic too much, but just quickly, bottom line, your sewage sludge costs a lot of money. They keep raising the price. We send it to Naugatuck to get burned, and there are only 2 places in the state that burn it. So alternatives to sewage sludge disposal, one of which is a biodigester, which can make money. So he's been involved in that. We've had a lot of interest in that. There are other communities that are looking at that. So my plan was to increase his role. He was brought on as an intern, and I thought he did pretty well with a project he had some familiarity with. So I would continue to leverage him as an intern through my office. Our current planning and development director, who was brought on to really make sure that office is properly supervised, to make sure that office is, processing the permits and making sure it's well-run. It's now fully staffed. He does, when he has time, he does have input on development projects. We do have him review them. For instance, you're going to have questions on, what happens at the Savin Rock beach site, and he has, I know some counselors have already contacted him, so his input on that in terms of how the zoning affects it definitely affects
What's his
development.
name, Lee?
Chris Soto. So he's definitely involved in the development process, and we have other members of the community that come up and have ideas on development, and we try to facilitate that.
Thank you, Lee. One more question?
Well, and just one more. I would say State Representative Boer, State Representative Farr, and State Senator Maroney are also very helpful to try to spur development in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Lee, just quickly, so what you have before us tonight, we're saying that, my first look at it is that it would be between the property owner and the leasee, right? That's normally how the deal would get done, right? And you're saying that to stimulate our economic development at this time, that we want to give 5 months free rent to try to get somebody to come in and rent something from somebody that owns the property, correct?
Yes, to try to get a long-term, high-value lease deal that otherwise wouldn't happen. That's the idea.
So to get them to come to the city of West Haven, we're thinking to give them 5 months free rent.
On a 5-year lease, yeah.
Would
Of the
that be
value of-
between the property owner and the person that's
The
coming in?
lease would be between the commercial, a private commercial property owner and a private commercial lessee,
Okay, and then the city would step in to give 5 months free rent.
and get a lien on the property to protect its investment so that the 5-year lease is completed.
Nothing else, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Massaro?
Lee, how long is this, if we decide something like this, how long would this program go for?
I would think you would want it to go for as long as it's successful, and I would think you'd want to stop it if you found that it wasn't successful.
Okay?
So if you're finding that it's creating development investment that's, visible and that you hadn't seen before or didn't appear before, I would think you'd want to see if the program, you might even want to expand the program. But if it's, a one-off, two-off thing, and then, over 9 months, we don't have any interest, you might have to deem that it's not spurring development, and maybe you have to go in a different direction.
Could this be changed at any time?
What do you mean, change?
Could we change this? I mean, if we decide to do something, could we change this program?
So the city council would be approving this program under the concept that you're approving a contract more than 3 years. Okay? So my answer to that question would be no. You'd have to come back to the council to get the change that you seem to be insinuating.
Well, see, here's my problem. If somebody comes in to an establishment and leases it, and we give them 5 years, the people stay there for 5 years, we give them 5 months of free rent, okay? Then they decide to move out, then they get somebody else. We're gonna be doing that to the same person every time he rotates his tenants?
Well,
I
first of
mean,
all,
I could see doing it for somebody the one time, not every time he fulfills his place.
so first of all, what you said is if they failed, so we would recoup the money, we would have a lien on the property, and we can enforce that lien through the foreclosure process. So we recoup those funds. I don't know why you would have a program that would allow somebody to participate again if they failed once. That wouldn't make sense to me. I don't, why would you think they're gonna be successful a second time if they
Something like
couldn't?
that I would put in writing.
Yeah, that's fine. Why would anybody get more than one bite at the apple? That wouldn't make sense to me.
What'd you say?
Why would anybody get more than one bite at the apple? That wouldn't make sense to me.
Well, you never know around here.
But it doesn't, the criteria doesn't say they can.
No, but I haven't fully developed the
Yeah.
criteria, and this is
No,
when I
wait,
get
no,
feedback.
that's what I'm saying, I think, I should be speaking, I know, I'm sorry, it's so
That's all
hard.
right, I know.
Oh, that's what I-
Councilwoman Johnston, you had a question?
I do. Thanks for coming, Lee. Lots of my thoughts and questions have been voiced already, but I still want to say a few things. When you started, you said, if people want development, what do you do? And I don't know, it just kind of feels like, I know I'm echoing what others have said, but it feels like logic would dictate that, like, we hire someone. Like, I feel like that relationship piece is missing. And my question really is, when you say that you've talked to the business community, is it just, like, how many businesses? Is it small businesses? Is it just, a couple of big developers? Like, who is the business community that is wanting this?
Well, yeah, all right, so one's large, one is a small business that wants to stay downtown, and a third is, I'd say, medium size. But understand, that's unsolicited, word of mouth, like nobody knows about. I don't know what would happen once, the public
Right.
knows about the program and what they would think of.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I was gonna say, is I would feel better about a plan like this if it were an established plan that were published, that everyone knew about and had the opportunity to apply for, rather than having someone, a developer or someone else suggest this and then trying to, placate them. I just feel like for transparency's sake, it would just feel better to have a published plan that's open to businesses.
No, but that is the plan. So in other words, you're going to have a public hearing, you're going to have the plan. If it's approved, then, and that public hearing is going to be advertised. If it's approved, then people are going to know about the plan, We'll have articles in the Voice, I'm sure we'll have articles in the Register, maybe even, other media. People will know about the plan, and I'm sure they'll reach out. When we've advertised, for instance, we didn't take Thompson School, I don't know, what did we get, 3 developers, we're negotiating with 2, so once the word gets out, once you have legal notices and things get published, I would anticipate you will have, more interest. I'm talking about unsolicited word-of-mouth interest that, just came into City Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? Councilman Cohen?
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. Just a couple of things here. First of all, I may have to, when and if this comes to a final vote, I may have to abstain because of a potential business conflict, so I just want to let you guys know that up front. So I'm going to temper my comments here so that they're, fair and forthright. This plan is, having read it and also having talked to just businesses both within the areas and out the areas, is some of them are just looking for, what I'll call just that small incentive, if you will. And I don't know what a small incentive definition is, if it's 5 months, 10 months, I don't have the magic number, okay? I really don't. But there are businesses in this city, and also, there are businesses in this city that either want to grow or they need a reason to stay, okay? Will this do it for them? I don't know, but it certainly can't hurt to offer it, okay? So having said that, these are, compared to some other town, and again, you can't compare one town to another town, I understand that, and it's not a fair comparison. There are towns that do more aggressive types of, how do I say this? More direct infusions of cash, if you will, to a business or to a developer, and there's not a one-size-fits-all. At least that's been my experience, okay? With this is a little bit more like, if I may, with respect to everyone, this is really more like threading the needle, if you will, because this is really more surgical, that based on the application process, and I think that the devil's in the details, based on the application process and what the application requirements are, my personal crystal ball says that this, based on the size of the business, when you look at a 10-year lease, chances are it's going to be a bigger business or a bigger investment, either from outside our region even, not even so much our city, not even New Haven County, but a bigger region, especially if they have a bigger footprint and they have a lot more property tax to pay. Versus, I think the initial target of this, you might have, whatever, you might have a large, you might have a medium, you might have a small, but the 5-year might be that bigger infusion. So I personally think, and I'm trying to be very careful in what I say, is, we hear about businesses leaving the city or wanting to leave the city. We hear about businesses that might go somewhere else. Yeah, we don't have somebody directly in charge right now of economic development, which has been published. We have a team of people that are all contributing, as Lee mentioned, but maybe that consultant will be able to play that role or however. So I would be very concerned, no matter what the council ends up deciding, at least at this point, to automatically put a cap on it. I think that it's not a wrong thing to do, but I think especially for something new and as specific and as surgical as what you're doing here, could end up hurting us more than helping us. And I don't have the answer to that, but I would just warn about that. The other comment that was made here, and again, there's no good answer here because I think every business is different, and I also would say every negotiation is different, if you will, is if you are going to have a 10-year lease and you're going to give them the first 10 months for free or whatever, you know, do you do it in years 1 through whatever, or do you do it in the other years? My suggestion is if you're gonna do this, and if you're gonna be competitive with other towns, which are doing direct infusion right now, and are competing for not just the small businesses, which are so vital to our town, but some of the technology businesses, some of the industrial businesses, some of the businesses that are gonna have the mid-sized or bigger footprint, you have to be a little aggressive. You have to show a little bit of faith in, you know, who you offer this to, and that's why I believe that whatever the final application process is, that those commitments and those milestones, beyond the lien, because there's, you know, that they be very targeted, very specific, and very measurable and reportable. And I know that's an obvious thing to say, but if you don't, then what Councilwoman Hosky says could be a reality. You know, it could be a reality. At the same time, I think that if you're gonna do this, that you don't do it with a cap, and you see what you get, and to your point, if it is late 3 years or whatever that the commitment is, then the council has to, you know, how much money is put out for this. I think that maybe after 3 months or 6 months or whatever, you can then make that judgment if you want to add or halt. But I think that you got to give a program, if you're going to do a program like this, in my own opinion, you got to give it 6 months to see what's out there, to see what's out there. 3 months isn't enough, a year may be too long, and then from there, the council can then make that judgment in terms of, do we cap it, do we add it, you know, what funds are left in the ARPA or what have you. And so that's really my only comment here. And to Lee's point, I just wanted one clarification from you, Lee. When you said, excuse me, when you said the 750 to 900K, it may not be every year, but that's a yearly thing, or based on some years versus other years. That I didn't quite.
No, I would say that's a total budget.
That's a total budget in terms of how much we're gonna,
Right.
how much we're gonna earn, how much we're gonna, I'm sorry, how much we're gonna put out.
Right.
Right, okay, the total budget as it stands now without a cap.
Right.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand.
And if you, so what I would envision is if it appeared it wasn't successful, you'd let it die a natural death. If it was successful, what I would be recommending as the Corporation Council is making it part of your ordinances, making an actual ordinance. And this is a loan program, it's an ordinance, and it's going to be part of our, toolbox for development.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, so it's possible, I'm not saying we should do this or not, and we should do this or not, that when this final product comes back to the council to vote on it, that you could say, we will reexamine this after 6 months. So we're not putting, we will just reaffirm it or reevaluate or get a report after 6 months. I'm not sure that you need to, but that's a possibility.
Well, I would initially, because it's new.
Right.
And it would be part of the private vendor. I would have the vendor report quarterly.
Right.
Because at least in the first year, you have new entrants and see how things go. And especially if, God forbid, but if you had failure quickly, you'd want to know, how you're going to pivot and not make things worse. So, and that's another positive reason, I think, to have the private vendor, to have them generating the report that the council would see on how the program is going, which would be, part of that would be, just like you do, when you do asset reviews or whatever, they would go out to the site and tell you what they saw at the site, and they saw the activity, and, yada, yada, yada. So I think you would want that vendor to do that, and to make the council feel comfortable that not only is the program working, but it has some oversight. And part of our process in the RFP is reaching out not only to financial institutions, we're directly sending the RFP to the financial institutions, but we're also sending it to property management companies, if they would be in. So we're going to try to get the right vendor to manage this program so that it's managed well, and people feel like if it's a success, it's because you have data to support that.
Thank you. Councilman Mitch.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Lee, for coming tonight. So, I'm confused a little bit. So, you put out an RFP for the vendor already, is that correct?
Yes.
We didn't vote on it, and if we vote this down, what happens?
then I have an RFP for a vendor for a program that's not gonna happen.
So, would it behoove us to put the RFP after this program was approved?
You could, but the problem I was hearing from that is, the other complaint that I hear in terms of anything going on relative to development is that we move too slowly. So I get that complaint as well. So I thought the limited cost of the RFP was worth the investment so that I could report that things are moving. I already have now we're ready to go. I have a vendor in place. And when you sign the program, you're not waiting to sign. You can sign up the vendor the same time you sign up the program. But you learn from experience. If that's an experience that doesn't work, I will go back to the old process. It's the same as, with Thompson School, we're going to have a hearing before the zoning committee. I mean, that should have happened before. With the schools, we're doing the remediation. We're doing the Phase 3 remediations, where before we said, oh, no, we'll wait and let the developers do their, no, the developers didn't do their magic. So it's, trying things, and if it doesn't work, I'll come back here, I'll admit my mistake,
No, I thought.
and we'll learn from it and move on.
So,
It's not a significant cost.
no, I just wanted to ask, because I thought we did it the other way. We did the other way before, and this was just, I didn't know it was a new way for you, that's, I was just asking. So, just excuse my ignorance here. So this, you said it could be cost $750,000 to $900,000 through this program, so you think?
The incentive payments would total that.
Right. Where would that money come from?
Well, as I said to you before, ARPA funding has been suggested, but we don't have a plan for all your ARPA funding yet.
Correct.
So if you wanted to start this plan, there is an area in the budget that you passed a budget that was at zero, which is sale of assets, which has over $500,000 in it right now. So you could start the plan with that budget item if you wanted to. And then if you thought ARPA funds were appropriate, you could include that. Maybe you want to wait and see that you have more plans on ARPA spending and give people confidence that you are addressing all the needs of the community and not the needs of just one area of the community when you commit ARPA funds, and that would make sense. But there is a way to start the program now. There is funding in the budget to start the program now if you choose to.
And that would be sell the asset,
There's a sale of asset fund that was anticipated to be budgeted at zero. It has over $500,000 in it.
and we could use that money for this program.
The council could choose to spend that money that way, yes.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody else have any, Councilman?
Lee, thank you for coming here tonight. So basically, and again, excuse my ignorance on this. I want to start a I want to start a business or move into West Haven. I find a landlord. I want to sign up for a 5-year lease. This program allows me to get 5 months free rent, correct? Right, as of now, if this is passed.
5-year lease with.
5-year lease.
The lease would
with
have to have a
6
total value in
employees.
excess of $1 million, yeah.
Right. Now, 4 years in, my company's blooming. I want to expand. Do I get that program again if I move to another place and make it a 10-year lease with 12? Do we have a cutoff? Do we have anything like that, or am I not making sense with that?
I mean, we're just starting the program.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't anticipate, if you're a participant in the program, to get a second bite at the apple of the program would seem to me, you'd have to be pretty far along in the program, you'd have to have allowed other people to participate. That would seem unlikely to me, that you would get a second bite at the apple unless it was to steal some sort of bigger development deal, or you're at year 9 and you want to do another 10 years and you thought the last 9 years were very successful, or so on and so forth. I think what you have to understand is, let's take a building like the Armstrong building. So if you look at some of the Armstrong building is currently used, right? But it's probably, it might be as much as 85% vacant, what was recently purchased. So you have nobody in there, and you haven't had anybody in there since the Rhino Tough Tires left. So that's a lot of time. I mean, if that owner approached the city and said, you know, I have a lessee that we would all be happy with, we would all be thrilled to come to the city of West Haven, here's what I need, or whatever. I mean, I can tell you right now, there's a building in downtown, I won't say where it is, but it's for sale. I know a business that wants to stay downtown that offered to buy, I mean, they have a gap. And you could say, well, you know, that's private enterprise or whatever, and I'm good with it, believe in private enterprise. The problem is that history tells us that if you don't fill that gap, the deal doesn't happen, the building remains vacant, and we just go on and complain about it. So this is an idea that maybe in those instances, we fill the gap and then voila, that building is retained, it stays in downtown, it's renovated, a lessee comes in, not a short-term lessee, a long-term lessee with employees, right? Not talking about, the idea of the employees was not to generate employment. What it guards against, if you look at how the National League of Cities has analyzed it, it's to guard against remote workers. So, you know, you could have somebody come in, they just sort of want to invest money in a building, but all their workers go remote. Nobody comes to eat lunch in West Haven or spend money in West Haven. You don't want that either. So you have to have some employees is the concept there. But it's really, if this program were successful, if someone like myself were to have pride in the program, it would be that you saw a investment opportunity that wasn't going to happen, and it happened because this program was in place, and we can look back 10 years and go, wow, you know, that made a difference. That's what you would want to see.
No, I mean, I agree. Listen, I look at things as, you want people to have morals, right? The people that are owning this business, and hopefully morally they'll do things, but you gotta worry about those that wanna try and use the system. And as long as we have like, almost like a fail-safe that can't happen, I'm all for incentive programs to bring businesses in. I like having economic development. I like people wanting to come to West Haven. And if we have to give them an incentive for it, I don't see that being a problem. But again, we will all discuss if this program is suitable or if we need to adjust it, which it seems like we need to do some adjusting, but I'm all set though. Thank you.
Well, so in along those lines, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I do listen, I do take notes. So, I mean, what I think, the one echo I'm hearing from most of the members is, for lack of a better phrase, you don't want to get ripped off. So you want a program where it's not obvious that someone could just take and not give back. And so when we have the public hearing, there will have to be more protections in it, not just the lien on the property, but more protections in to make sure that people adhere to the program. So I've listened, I've heard that, and I will make that part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, I know you have some questions, but Bridget has one more question.
Sure.
One? Just one. I'm teasing.
So,
It could be a compound question, that's all.
I know, right? So one of the things is, I think it's just really important that when we speak to the failure and success, that we have a clear understanding as to what we deem as successful. You know, like, how do we rate the longevity of this program? What if it's successful? I have a different definition of, than other people, so I just think that's really important that when we set this up, how we decide if we're gonna move forward. It's not, you know, people coming in and taking the money. It's,
Right.
So I just think that that's really important, and it just speaks to us as a city doing business differently.
So the three measurements that and you can add, obviously give me ideas to add to it. The three measurements, and if you look at the Soma Hill, it was the same vision, but in some respect. So what I think the city would want to have successful development is, number one, obviously you want the lease to be completed, right? Number two, as I alluded to before, you would want to see a pretty robust personal property tax collection, right? Computers, desks, whatever the business has, that the city is getting annual revenue from that is successful and justifies the program. Number three, what you would want to see is that not only is the actual leasehold increase the value of that particular property, of course, which was increased taxes, but you would like to see that if you have an anchor or a nice lessee in a particular location, that it would spur neighboring business in neighboring locations. And if you could, that's not hard to measure, right? The tax issues are very easy to measure. But even, all you have to do is freeze time. Here's what it looked like when we started, here's what it looked like at year 3, year 5, year 7, year 10. So I think, I would be happy to include those as measurement tools, that they have to be part of the reporting process. I mean, I think that would make sense.
That would be excellent. And the question 1.2 is, when is the idea to, I know we did the RFP, and I appreciate the way in which you handled this, that it's already out there to see if we get a bite, but when is the go live? Like, when is the expected start date? And the reason I'm asking that is, I can tell you right now that I have no interest in tapping into the ARPA money. Maybe that could be under, like, to give it longevity, but right now, the other account, the property assessment account, when is the go live? Because I'm thinking we can't transfer any money out of that account to pay for anything until the 4th quarter. Like, how would we do that? I guess, what is the plan for any of that? Did my question make sense?
Yes,
Huh? That was your question?
Your 1.2, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna let Chairman take over so he can ask that.
Yes, so I would anticipate, well, there's two things that would affect the start date, not just what you described, but the two things that would affect the start date, in my view, is I would want business, I wouldn't want this to start so soon that businesses felt like they didn't have an opportunity. So you would want, after approval, some timeline to go by, whether it's 10 days, 3 weeks, something. And then secondarily, I mean, the line item I described is budgeted at 0. It has no claims against it. It is not the contingency fund. You have a $2 million contingency fund. So I think you could confidently book money against it, knowing you're going to do a transfer in the future. But if you wanted to wait and do your transfer later, yes, the payments would have to wait. And if this was really changing the deals, then the people would have to wait on the deal for their money, and that's just the way it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Chairman?
You sure?
Yes.
Really a couple
But-
things.
But if you had an approved plan, of course, people could act accordingly. So I don't think it
Right.
would stop anything. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So a couple of things. I think I'm probably mopping up, so a lot of great questions were asked. But first off, I would like to thank the members of the West Haven Economic Development Commission for being here tonight. I had a conversation with their chair earlier today, and I really would like them to weigh in on the proposal, considering they are the Economic Development Commission here for the city. I've also asked DECD, the State Department of Economic Development, to weigh in as well to see, the viability of this particular proposal.
And if you have no objection, Mr. Chair, I'm going to give them my card. I will ask them to send me their information, and whatever information I give to the council, I will give them simultaneously, unless the council has an objection.
Sure, once we're through, you could do that way. I guess not. All right, very good. So my expectation for this program is, I think this is one program that can and should be proposed, if that's what the mayor has in her proposal for her ARPA program. It shouldn't stand alone. It should stand and be weighed against every other priority that we have in the city. I mean, I really like to see something for smaller business. I think there's an equity issue here that, we want to take care of the big corporation, or the medium size, but maybe we need to have something for small business. My concern would be, are we going to really just kind of move the pieces on the chessboard? So are we going to take one business entity that's in one location in West Haven and now move them to another location? So we're spending city money to take them from one landlord who now is going to have an empty location to another landlord in West Haven that is now going to have them in their location and participating in this particular program. So I think for me, I'd be interested in a kind of a focused program. So what's our priority? And I don't know if we could answer that right now. Is our priority downtown revitalization? Is our priority Lower Campbell Avenue? Is our priority the Armstrong area or the shorefront? So I think, where I think, I don't know, maybe it was Councilman Cohen who said that we're too strategic, I think, or too surgical. I think maybe I'm looking for it to be even a little bit, more surgical when it comes to that. So my timeline would be this is one proposal out of many that we're going to come before this council for deliberation for ARPA. So, and then we have until the end of January to approve that ARPA plan. As I think about it, I think, and it really should be for business that hasn't already had a bite of the apple. So if the city's giving you some other incentive or give back or abatement, then you've received help from the city, and it should be for others that have not. So,
But I would caution you on that, because if you give the incentive, nobody's barred from seeking an abatement, so, it's chicken and egg.
Nobody's barred from seeking an abatement.
In other words, someone could receive it, and then all of a sudden they apply for an abatement after they receive the benefit. So you gotta be careful.
Well, I'm saying that maybe we should consider that can't happen.
Statutorily, you couldn't do that, because people can always apply for an abatement. I guess you could have a council policy that you're never gonna approve it, but then is that really discretionary? You're not really giving anybody a fair shake. I'm just saying it's complicated.
My biggest concern is that we want to help the most people with the amount of money that we have, right? So we don't want to help 3 people with all the money. We want to help 33 people and divide that money as much as we can. I mean, in theory, that's what I'm looking to see. Again, the devil's going to be in the details, but I just wanted to, to kind of give you what I think my timeline is, and I think it's incumbent upon this council to do our due diligence, and I think we're prepared, and we're going to go do, and we're going to do that. But I can't value, this proposal may be valuable, but I can't value this proposal any more than any other potential proposal we may get either from the mayor or ones that are brought forward from council members that we want to see as part of this ARPA funding. You did answer, I'm glad that there would be a third-party administrator, because I think that's appropriate. Again, everybody's, doing multiple jobs, and if we have learned anything, we have learned that we need to make sure that we have the proper oversight of all of these programs. And I think I would be asking the same thing for the ARPA monies, is that there'd be a third-party administrator also tasked with just that, with regular reporting to the council, whether that be monthly or quarterly. So, I mean, those are my comments as far as this, this program.
Can I just have one response to that, which is that, funding isn't unlimited. I mean, I could be tasked with coming up with a lot of different development programs, but I can't be tasked with funding all. So, I guess if you move to the ARPA concept, then you're correct. You could have a lot of different plans. I think you can't have an unlimited number of plans, given the current budget.
Agreed. No, I think these plans will all come together through the ARPA process. That's anyway my recommendation. It's at the end of the day, it's up to the council. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. Lee, thank you for coming out tonight and answering our questions. I have one final ask of you, and I think it's very important. I'd like to see an ARPA application filled out for this. Just like we're asking the citizens to fill out an application, I think it's very important in light of what happened, that everyone fill out an ARPA application for anything that they want to use those monies for.
Okay, again, I will convey that to the mayor. I wouldn't control that, but
But I.
make it part of the process, I get you.
It's part of the process, and I really feel that that's really important. It might even answer some of the questions that we may have had that were a little vague tonight. That's kind of like an outline of your project. Thank you. And our special meeting with the redevelopment is done at 7:15.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second? Second, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you all on Wednesday.
Oh,